Hello everyone. My name is Ashish Bajaj, Director Enterprise Sales for Harman Professional Solutions, India and SAARC. A warm welcome to everyone for today's edition of Harman Techno Chat. We enjoy bringing the Techno Chat series to you. As situation looks to improve across the nation, we can hope for a better economic outlook. In our Techno Chat series today, we will be featuring a strong personality in system integration space and get insights from them on how our industry has evolved over the years and how we will be returning back to a normalcy. So let's go and welcome our guest for today. So friends, let me give you a brief about CS Direkt. Sanjeev Pasricha is a Group CEO of CS Direkt Group of Companies, which services a diverse range of clientele. Under his guidance, the group companies help government, brands, and corporate create an impactful content and immersive digital solutions. Sanjeevji's creative expertise has helped utilize technology within the audiovisual space for creating some of the most fascinating sound and light shows in the country. Sanjeev was the founding member and executive vice president of EMA, the Association of Event and Entertainment in India. Besides work, Sanjeevji takes an active interest in various fundraising initiatives related to women empowerment and human rights. At Harman, what we love about CS Direkt team is their ability to merge the technologies and creative mindset to build something wonderful every time. Creating a unique experience has been their number one thing. So let us hear it from Sanjeev himself on his thoughts about it. So Sanjeevji, what do you think about the experiential industry and how it is evolving in the country?
I think I would find Ashish experiential industry to be the most dynamic industry, and it was the industry that got badly hit by the COVID, and all of us would know about it. But what I like, as I said, is the ability to bounce back and come back, and I'm seeing the signs of it already. It is also slated to be a 12 billion industry by the 2023, and that is what an encouraging point about it. So I feel it's growing back, and it's also said to come back with a vengeance in the post-COVID, and that is what I'm really looking forward to it.
So Sanjeev, you've come a long way and have seen these changes on how the changes have been involved in the industry. You've been part of it as well. So how do you see these changes contributing to your success? And most importantly, what has been the biggest motivator?
So I think Ashish have been extremely fortunate to be part of the experiential industry from the beginning itself, since its inception in the country. And you rightly said it's come a long way from what it used to be as a consolidation of various services in terms of commodities, has actually moved on to be the experience or experience sharing platforms for the various audiences that has. So post-COVID, it probably is also, I would say, is a best time for it to now really transform itself from what it used to be a hardware-oriented industry into actually a narrative-driven industry now. Okay. But our biggest motivator here is to actually be able to present India as the choicest destination in tourism now in the coming time. India has been extremely fortunate to be, we have a 5,000 years of history. There's so much of legacy and storytelling that is there. And that is what it helps us narrate the story of India to the world. And I think that's the biggest motivator that we have currently in the post-COVID situation.
So you're saying 5,000 years of culture, that's a lot of content.
Well, there's a story every minute. You turn a stone and there is a story behind it. Look at the royalty of Rajasthan. Look at the legacy of the country. We're a 5,000-year-old civilization. So there is a story. जो कन कन में कहानी कहते हैं वो है इसके अंदर.
Nice, that's good to hear.
Yeah. So and that really motivates us to really bring that story, bring the India and its legacy alive to the world. And I think
so
that
the biggest motivator
is to the tourism initiative of the government.
So the biggest motivator is actually the available content in the country. And I think that makes sense. You mentioned about COVID and how the this industry is kind of kicking back and bringing back to the normalcy. But as we're in the on the track of economic revival, do you really see that we are really on a back to attract to normalcy?
So, Ashish, I won't say we are back to normal as of now, but I think we are seeing the signs of improvement. We are seeing the signs of the economy reviving itself. I'm also seeing a lot of initiative being taken by the government in the experiential market in terms of looking at the growth of tourism, the sound and light shows, the museums that are being initiated. So I see a huge amount of impetus by the government, and I think that's the great part of kind of reviving the industry, especially our experience industry.
So you mentioned about government increasing its focus towards developing tourism around this industry. So that's one part of it. What are the other intangible benefits that you see that comes along with it? So I mean, has government increased their thought process behind it, and then what are the intangible
So I think
benefits?
sound and light is a very small portion of the overall vision of the government and the vision of the tourism that you see. So what it does, it not just only narrates the story or a history of a space or a place, but it also allows the economy to be impacted. For example, a family who stays to watch a sound and light shows at least spend about 10,000 rupees more that particular night. They will use the hotel, they will use shop, they will eat, thereby impacting the economy and growing the economy. And I think that's where the benefit of the sound and light shows and the cultural showcasing really happens today.
Okay.
So I see the extent or the cascading effect to be what would be the great return of investments for the government.
So from the state government perspective, central government perspective, it is actually a revenue generating model across the other verticals as well. Just not the sound and light show, not the tourism, but the hospitality, the restaurants and all that stuff, everything.
Absolutely. That's what I said, and I think when you stay back in a family, and if I go out to Ajmer and watch a show, I'm going to stay in the hotel, I'm going to be shop, I'm going to eat, and I think that what it really kind of adds to the economy. But not only that, it also adds to the jobs of the particular state. So I think employability is also an area where the cultural aspect or the experience economy adds.
So everything comes with a challenge. So do you think that this segment has any challenges? I mean, and if it is, I mean, how do you mitigate them?
So I will just build up on what you said. Everything comes with a challenge, and so does this. So what's happening is the experience economy and this industry is completely transforming. And when you have a fast changing or transforming industry, it's bound to have its own challenges. The biggest challenge is the availability of their skilled manpower. And as I said, this industry is completely transforming. So from being just a hardware oriented and putting things together, it's becoming narrative led or the creative led. And hence, you need people who understand both the creative aspects of it and the technology part of it. So you need to be able to fuse both together to create a great mesmerizing story for the audience. And that's where the challenge is. And I think what does the industry need to mitigate it? The answer is training. I think you need to really train your manpower, put a lot of focus there, give them the exposure, and actually develop that talent so that it's going to be at par with the international processes and the scale that it operates in the international forum.
So on the international forum, as you mentioned, I mean, we all have traveled. We've seen a lot of global references, and it's all coming together in India now, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you think, I mean, does India fare in terms of the sound and light shows, in terms of technology, as compared to the global references that we have?
Yes, I think the world is shrinking, as we all know. So we are aware of the latest technologies that are available internationally, which have been used. That gives an advantage of having the shorter learning curve, which means we'll be able to use the latest technologies for the content that we're creating. But what really makes a difference for the India is the great content, the story. As I said, every stone that you unturned has a story to tell. Every fort has a story to tell. So we've got so much of content, and that's where India is probably way ahead the world in terms of creating the narrative and the story for any sound and light show. And that is where I think will make a difference, and we are far ahead of the others. Just that we need to use the technologies with companies like Harman coming in and the other companies coming in. I think that would be probably the turning point, and will probably completely transform the way this industry looks in the country.
With so many kind of sound and light shows coming up, I think India is poised to kind of go towards that and have so many tourist destinations around it. So.
Yes, if you look at about 25 years back, there were about ginti ke 3, 4, 5 अच्छे shows होते थे. But I think now you can find a good 3 to 4 light and sound shows in every state today, and I think the numbers are increasing. As we currently speak, we are actually developing about 8 such projects for the various states in the country as of now.
We have been associated, been working on a couple of projects with you now and successful. I mean, they have been. Is there a favorite Harman brand that you have? And if you have, I mean, what is that brand?
Well, I think I want to be politically correct when I make this statement, but yes, I think my exposure has been to the brand JBL and Martin lights, and I think the product, is something that has the latest engineering and latest technology, and I think that's not the worry area for any system integrator or any creative agency. What really has impressed us the culture that Harman follows in terms of the proactiveness. But it's a dynamic situation, and India being a market where clients expect you to deliver something new every time. So it's imperative that we go back to the drawing board every now and then. And it's happened that I've woken up Ayush and probably Vineet in the middle of the night, and they've been able to proactively come back to us with solution, which is what I like about the proactive approach. Flexibility in terms of the solutions. I think that culture is something that I think would really help the industry to grow, and that's something I love about Harman.
I think overall, when all these points put together, I think it has been a very enriching conversation about how the industry is shaping and what all we can do in this industry, and I'm sure it's very exciting viewing for our followers as well. I mean, getting into the next part of it, I mean, we spoke about tourism industry developing, right? A lot of museums coming up, a lot of sound and light shows coming up, right? So, I mean, what really goes into any museum or any sound and light show requirements? How the requirements evolve? I mean, and then what are your thoughts that you put behind, which gives you a kickstart on your creative plan?
Okay. So I think it's a very important question, and I think as the industry evolves, Ashish, it's very important to see that we are not just integrating and putting hardware together.
Yeah.
You need to be aware of the fact of what the objective of the state is. What are we delivering this project for? What is the target audience is catering to? There are times when you're designing the shows actually meant for a family kind of an audience, and there is a time when you're developing is a very, very mature audience. So it all depends on those aspects and what is the narrative and what's the story behind the entire thing. What are we trying to convey? And that's where the partnership between a technology company and a creative company makes a lot of sense, because we are able to give those requirements and expect Harman and companies like that to come back to us with the perfect product line and technology, because it's the narrative that drives the technology, and the technology has to follow and fulfill the need of the narrative.
Okay.
So this is what I see as a good partnership that goes.
But how easy or difficult, I mean, is it to evolve these thoughts and these concepts to put into the design flow, and then how do you bring to the effect? I mean, how easy or how difficult is that?
So it's a complete process in itself. If I was to take you through what really goes into the fact of saying, understand the script and the brief very, very clearly. Once you understand, then you build up a storyline. Thankfully, as I said, India has abundance of content.
Right.
So the storyline normally is fixed, but you need to kind of create that visual magic behind it. Combine sound, light, lasers, and the visuals of it, and actually create an environment for the audience to be transformed. So Ashish, our goal is actually to see, if I'm talking about an era of 15th century, I need to transform our audience to the 15th century. So the kind of noise, decibels, music, ambience, architecture, the detailing of that, the bricks, the kind of fauna, the flora at that point of time is looked into those minutest details before we come to the storyboard and actually get a sketch ready for it. So a lot of detailing goes to it. We have a professional team of architects and designers that actually sit down, create that storyboard, and that's what makes the difference. Okay. So much of detailing goes into creating a storyboard and the right narrative for the audience, and that's what makes the difference between a good and a great show. So this is the process that we follow, and then it goes to development and animation approvals, and finally you see a combination or a fusion of narrative and technology.
Nice, good to hear. So coming back to let's say Harman's contribution, you mentioned about I asked that what's your favorite brand. I think you mentioned JBL and Martin were the ones that you probably, because you've worked quite or used quite of them in your projects. What really makes you kind of think about Harman as your technology partner? I mean, when these kind of projects come into play, and then do you really seek Harman Pro's help in putting together these designs?
So I think, yes, we have been doing that. We've been interacting, much before the final presentations happen. I think the other aspect is, what I like is that the Harman offers a huge bandwidth of the products. So I feel that whenever we've come back to Harman, we've got a product that fits the story and the narrative or the requirements. So the huge bandwidth really also helps us to kind of look at Harman as a partner. Number two, the proactive approach that Harman has always had, their willingness to help us design a particular solution depending on the space or the venue. I think that's been a very positive step for us as a partnership for the last few years.
Nice. We are working on a lot of projects, as I said. I mean, there's one going on. I think it's a Kumbhalgarh.
Yeah.
There's a Kumbhalgarh science show. There's a museum coming up, the PM Museum in Delhi.
Correct. Absolutely.
So there's a lot of action happening right now. And I'm sure some of the projects are ongoing, some of the projects are completed, handed over, and there are projects which are done already or about to go live. What are the initial reactions of the customers or the clients? I mean, when this install goes live, I mean, how do they see everything coming alive in front of them? I mean, what's their reaction?
Yeah, it also depends. Sometimes the customers are involved in the journey themselves. So we are co-creating the entire product. So they're a part of our journey. So they understand the difficulties, they understand what goes into it, they understand how the solution is being developed. But what I like most about certain customers who say, listen, we will come for the final show. And that's where it's become extremely challenging for us, because we are shouldering the responsibility of the narrative as what they have perceived, and we have to live up to that expectation. And that's what's most challenging is when the customer is not involved and he comes in the last minute and the beautiful words saying, well done guys. I think that's what is the most satisfying answers we get. Overall, I think the response has been extremely encouraging. As we speak, as I said, we're doing an X number of shows, about 8 to 10 shows right now. And most of them are in a development stage or handing over stage right now. And we've got some great response from the customers on what we're developing for them. As fusing technology and narrative, that's the way it's being brought about.
So there are many significant projects underway in the country right now. I think it's a good sign, obviously, and it's kind of open up a lot of new avenues and a lot of new opportunities for all of us in terms of the exhibits and the digital storytelling, as you mentioned, right? So do you think it's being looked upon on a broader platform by the audience, by the governments, it has a big future?
Yeah. So I think we really never had a culture of actually going down and watching a sound and light show, or actually moving out to what I say is a culture of museums. What I'm seeing is there is a shift in that approach. The government is looking at a lot of technology-oriented museums coming in. In fact, one of the museums that we're doing in Punjab government is going to be one of the biggest in digital, one of the biggest digital museums in the country today. And I'm seeing the culture of visiting museums coming along. We are a long way to go and achieve what happens in Europe and America. But I think I'm seeing the beginning of that. So the audience is shifting. They're looking forward to it, and technology has really helped that piece, because it's one way of putting up an exhibit which is static, and it's another way of actually putting up an exhibit which is extremely dynamic, involving, interactive for the audience. And I think that's what attracts the youth. In a few of the briefs that we're getting now is that the governments want us to create museums and light and sound show which are interactive and which attract youth of the country.
Okay.
So that's been a shift in terms of how even the government is seeing sound and light shows and museums today. I think which is a very, very welcoming, because in India being one of the youngest countries around, it's important to get involved the youth and create product which is for that audience.
Just like you kind of plan a vacation to Europe, right? I mean, the top 5 destinations to visit, 3 of them are museums or a sound and light show kind of thing, which is probably not the situation right now in India, but I think with all of these being developing, it is going to change. So it's going to still be temples, it's going to still be house of worship, but then with a story behind it, like a sound and light show behind it, like a fort with a good...
So I think museums have always been a part of the itinerary for all of us who travel abroad. But I think what we really need to create, and what we are creating, is magnet that attracts the audiences. They need to act as the magnets where audiences get attracted and actually put the itinerary in the itinerary, the multiple museums and the technology marvels that are coming in. And as I said, technology is playing that role of actually supporting the narrative and storytelling, which is a digital form of...
And youth being the target audience, as you said, the target TG, right? So with the whole COVID scenario, I'm sure the international travels are right now under hold. So domestic travel has kind of gone up. So it's going to really help in that ways as well to kind of bump up the whole experiential economy.
It has. I I think the data also says that the domestic travel has really gone up once the COVID restrictions have been off. And that's the opportunity that the government and the state governments have to take up. And a lot of projects are underway to keeping that being a sustained tourism as domestic tourism to be a part of the overall scenario. And I think that is helping the governments and revive tourism and the travel industry, which really went through a very bad phase in the COVID scenario.
So I think after few weeks or months, I think it's all about just booking a ticket and going to these venues and watching all these shows that you create.
Well, I hope so, and I think looking forward to more and more audiences, and I think more and more fuller shows which happen, and that is what the challenge has been, and we are happy that we are trying to contribute to that aspect.
I think it's a wonderful conversation. So thank you very much, as I say once again, sharing your thoughts around this. It's a new topic. It's not the conventional what do we do in corporates, what do we do in a hotel, or what do we do in a government conference room. It's experiential industry, which is kind of coming up big time in India. And that's the future, I believe, with so much lined up and government investing into private sector also getting into all this in this sector. I think it's going to be a very useful content or the conversation that our viewers would like. So thank you very much for
Most welcome anytime, Ashish. Thank you so much for having us over, and hope to contribute as much as possible.
As a small token of gratitude, I have a small memento for you. So please accept that from our side. So JBL 104BT.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm sure you'll love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching this episode, and thank you for all your responses. Your encouragement and positive feedback is a big motivator for us to keep bringing you these sessions with industry experts. It gives us a platform to interact and get their views on how they think, plan, and deploy their ideas. We feel that these sessions help our viewers in initiating different thoughts and plans on how they can be more innovative in their approach towards the enterprise customer. With your support, we will continue doing this endeavor. Subscribe to our channels. Details are mentioned below for your reference. We love hearing from you. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Goodbye. Thank you.